Hey guys, the next question for today's disaster management topic is about the disaster mapping. Is the key to preparedness, response, and mitigation of a disaster comment. So, disaster mapping. It is a tool for accessing, storing, and conveying information on the geographic location of a disaster occurrence and its probable effect. So, what is disaster mapping? This is a particular tool we can access and also store and convey information of geographical location of disaster occurrence, when this particular disaster can happen, in which particular geographical area it can happen, how much impact it can cause. So these are some of the things which we can try to map, and what are the effects also. So in India it's done through Vulnerability Atlas of India. There is a particular atlas, vulnerability atlas. This help in disaster mapping in India. So what is the importance of this particular disaster mapping? First step, we need preparedness. How to be prepared? There are 3 steps. First one is disaster zoning, risk assessment to implement early warning system, and then planning. It will prevent the areas, prevention of areas and evacuation sites, that is route. If particular area is vulnerable to flood, we have to keep it prepared and we have to prevent the disaster as much as possible. So planning is important. So the next step is about resilient infrastructure building based on the data, identifying intensity. We have to identify the intensity and we have to make the resilient infrastructures. This will reduce the impact. Example, cyclone shelters are very important in Odisha because it is vulnerable to cyclone. So this is about preparedness. So the next step is response. First we have to be prepared. If, for example, unfortunately something happened, then we have how we respond to that. First one is rescue efforts. We need quick evacuation and rehabilitation facility for the people. So the next step is about the capacity building. We have to identify the local individual for collective response because they might have some previous experience also. So we need capacity building facility. So the next one is about dynamic mapping, real-time assessment with changing geography, because each time the amount of issue and impact may differ. So we need dynamic mapping also. It shouldn't be static. So what is the next step? It is about mitigation. Once if it happened, how can we reduce its impact? First one is DRR, disaster resilience. Disaster risk reduction. Example, how can we reduce the risk? Flood zone mapping to reduce the urban flood in areas like Chennai and Mumbai. Next one is resource utilization. We have to identify the areas for disaster fund rationing based on the data. So the next one is about the reconstruction and rehabilitation in areas less vulnerable. So first step is about the disaster risk reduction, and the next step is about the resource utilization. We have to utilize the disaster fund properly. Then third one is about it, how can we reconstruct or rehabilitate the damaged areas. So these are the 3 major steps. Now how can we conclude? According to WMO, India lost over $85 billion to disaster in the last 2 years. So there is a need to decrease the impact and intensity of disaster by implementing the Sendai framework, promoting technological use. Example like remote sensing, satellite, artificial intelligence, etc. So that's all.